welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing a sewing and craft Q&A video. I asked over on my Instagram for some questions and I got quite a few through that I wanted to answer on here, and it's been ages since I did this style of video on my YouTube channel, so I'm excited to answer your questions today. And without further ado, we're going to get straight on into it. But if you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and let's get started. So question number one is a question that I had quite a lot from different people, and it was, what is your favourite fabric to sew garments with, and then your least favourite. So my favourite fabric that I tend to be drawn towards is viscose. I don't know what it is about viscose, to be honest. I think it's because usually you can get them quite relatively good priced. There's a lot of viscose on the market, especially with independent like fabric retailers, and they usually come in like really lovely prints. It's very lightweight fabric, so if you're a complete beginner it can be a little bit on the slipperier side to work with, but it's just a really lovely fabric to sew. Sewing machines usually take to it quite well, and this dress that I'm wearing actually now, I'll show you guys. This was a viscose, and it's just, you can see it's super drapey and lightweight, and I just love them. I tend to go a lot for viscoses because I make a lot of dresses. And yeah, other than viscose, I quite like rayon. It's very similar in terms of drape to viscose. And cottons, a lot of woven fabrics. I make a lot of dresses like I mentioned, so wovens, things like that. I'm recently getting into linen. The only thing I find that annoys me about linen is I don't really like ironing that much. I know, how can I be a sewist if I don't like ironing? But linen I find creases quite a lot, so I'm still getting the grips with linen. And I'm also really loving jerseys recently. I'm doing a lot more jersey patterns as well. So Sew Me Sunshine have a really gorgeous bamboo jersey, which I absolutely love. Okay, they're kind of my favourite. In terms of my least favourite, I probably would have to say coating fabrics. I have made like 3 different coats now, and although I absolutely love the finished article and I'm super proud of those makes more than all of the others, it is purely because the battle that you have to compete with, you know, when you're sewing coatings. Just because sewing machines, even though I've got quite a good sewing machine, I've got a Janome DKS 100, it's just a bit more effort to kind of sew things, especially when there's lots of layers and stuff like that. Also corduroy is one of those fabrics because it looks lovely when it's finished, but it gets so many little like dusty fabric particles everywhere when you cut it. It's just kind of a bit chunky, and like, although it's fairly easy to sew, it sometimes on thicker pieces it's just a bit like a conk kind of thing through the machine. So yeah, so I would say those. Someone said, what is your favourite way to finish edges? By edges I'm guessing that means seams. So my favourite way to finish seam allowances is to use my overlocker. So I'd say 70% of the time I get my overlocker out and I will use that to do finishing, and I'm quite lazy in terms of my overlocking. I tend to just use white or black thread because threading an overlocker is always a massive effort, and I'm very much like low effort and the easiest way out possible. But I absolutely do love the finish that an overlocker gives on a garment. Just gives it that professional sort of finish. But then also I do tend to use a zigzag stitch as well, and if it only has like 1 or 2 seams that are going to be exposed, then I'll just tend to overlock it on the machine with a zigzag stitch. Someone here has put punch needle Insta/YouTube inspiration, so I don't know if they meant like that as a video idea or to give some inspirations, so I thought I'd include it as this is the craft Q&A as well. The punch needle, I mainly get my ideas from Pinterest, and I did one YouTube video which is a punch needle video, which I'll leave a little card for. I absolutely loved the video, and I haven't actually posted anything punch needle since on here, so I definitely want to do some. I've got some plans, some little punch needle projects that I'd love to share on here with you guys. But Pinterest, oh my god, I swear in the last year, if not 2 years, the punch needle kind of trend has just grown and grown and grown. And yeah, I just love punch needle. Pinterest is my favourite place for inspiration though. Someone said, or playing_dress up said, how long have you been sewing for, and your favourite beginner sewing patterns? So I have been sewing for a long time. I'm 30 this year. Wow. And I started sewing when I was in school, so I'd say properly, I did hand sewing, things like that, but properly sewing on a machine I was about 14, because I did work experience at dressmakers when I was 14. That's kind of when I first started getting into sewing and the idea of sewing. And then I went and did this fashion and textiles MVQ course at college 1 day a week. So even though I was in secondary school, my school offered this program where you could go 1 day a week to do an MVQ. So I did that for 2 years during year 10 and 11 at school, and I did fashion and textiles for 2 years and loved it so much I ended up doing it as a National BTEC diploma for 2 years as well. So I sewed for 4 years in college before going on to do illustration at university, so I changed my route a little bit, but that's kind of how I learned all the techniques and stuff like that. And then my sewing machine kind of took a little trip back into the wardrobe in a box for many years, and I would just get it out as and when I wanted to sew the odd thing, you know, or make alterations. And then it was about 2 summers ago that I started garment making again, because I hadn't made a pattern since I was a teenager. So then yeah, I just decided to start sewing again, and I've not looked back since. Next question by Lynette. When do you need an overlocker and when do you need a sewing machine? So to be honest, an overlocker you can pretty much live without. You can just use a zigzag stitch, especially if you're a beginner, for a while. And then obviously if you want to elevate your sewing experience or elevate your kind of finishes, then an overlocker is an amazing purchase. But a sewing machine I would just highly recommend for anyone to have, because it's great for fixing, whether you wear ready to wear products or you make your own clothes. Obviously if you make your own clothes you're going to need a sewing machine, but it's also great for alterations and for fixing and mending other clothes as well. So I think everyone should have a sewing machine of some kind, because it's like an essential household thing to have, and I think it's such an amazing skill to learn as well. I said, have you ever made a copy of a high street dress you loved? I would say I've not particularly made an exact copy of something that I've seen. I've definitely taken inspiration from the high street, especially when the puff sleeve trend came in and that kind of 90s square neckline. So I made quite a few sort of things like that last summer. And also gingham, just like seeing a different style of gingham dresses on the internet and like on websites, things like that. They're the kind of things that I look at for inspiration, I guess. Bri Rosen said, how often do you service your machine? So you writing this has reminded me that my machine definitely needs a service and an oil, because I haven't done it in a good like 6 months or so. But I tend to take the plate off my machine and clean it every, I don't know, few projects that I make. You can do it less or more, depends what fabric you're working with, but in terms of service, like actually sending it in to get it serviced, I haven't had my machine serviced since I bought it. I got it brand new in January 2020, so only last year, and because of COVID everything's been closed, but when the sewing machine shops are open and stuff again, I definitely will take it in for service. Mel, I think, or V-Mel, said, what comes first, fabric or sewing pattern? How do you plan your makes and shop? So if I'm being completely honest, I would probably say fabric comes first most of the time. I would say maybe 70% of the time. And the other times I'll see a new pattern. Say like a pattern brand launched a new pattern and I really love the shape and the look of it, then I would buy it and then think, right, okay, I'll start keeping a lookout for fabrics that I like that would be good for that particular pattern. So it kind of depends, but I would say most of the time I'm a fabric shopper, and then I'll be like, I love that fabric, I can see that fabric as a dress, and then I'll find the dress pattern that I like to make that fabric in. So that's kind of most of the time, but I am a bit on a spending ban at the moment, and my fabric stash is kind of substantial. I've got quite a good amount that will definitely see me through this year. So yeah, so fabrics first, but I'm stopping that at the moment. So Crazy right now said, love this. What do you set up your, how do you set up your journal? How do you select the fabrics? Any tips for beginners? So I don't necessarily have a set sewing journal. I have a bullet journal which I do my weekly plan in for the week anyway, and then when I get the inspiration to do so, I will do like a little page or drawing of things that I want to make, just to kind of help me visualize it. And I mean, I did illustrations, so it helps for me anyway as a visual person to kind of sketch it out. There's no really tips as such. It kind of depends what works for you. If you're a visual learner or you like to see things, you can do collage, or you can do things in a Pinterest board, or like me, you can sketch it out. So that's kind of what I prefer to do. But yeah, there's no kind of rhyme or reason with journaling. It's very much a personal thing. And yeah, if you did want to see a video on journaling though, I'd happily do something, because there's some nice like styles and stuff you can do, but I don't really have anything set that I do for sewing. It's kind of just what I feel on the day, I guess. Cyril Scaper, I think it is, says favourite ways to use fabric scraps. So I love using up scraps. I've got a whole bag of them, and of course this year very much use bigger pieces for like making my own masks. And I see a lot of people making hair scrunchies as well. Yeah, there's lots of things. I did use things like nice jerseys and stuff like that, or cottons. You can use like t-shirt fabric, you can use to make like reusable face pads and things like that. But you can keep things for crafting as well. So if you wanted to make like bunting, especially with like lovely cottons and things, you can make some really nice like mix and match bunting and stuff. For little scraps, I give them sometimes to my friend because she scrapbooks with them. So yeah, you can use them for little scrapbooking like things with like, I don't know, little shapes and stuff like that as well. Brina said, what has been your favourite sewing project? I have to say, my favourite at the moment is probably my Heather blazer from Friday Pattern Company. It's just so pretty, and I just love how it all came out, and the fabric and the lining and everything. Yeah, I just really loved that. And also probably my Eden raincoat that I made last year, which is the Tilly and the Buttons pattern. Those are probably my favourites, as well as my Ilford jacket. Again, I hate working with coatings, but once I've made the coat or the jacket, they end up being usually my favourite makes. Brina also said, what is a sewing project you can't wait to start? I'm really looking forward to making me and my sisters matching dresses or matching items for my birthday. So I didn't mention this in my previous video, and I probably should have. I'm a triplet and I have two sisters the same age as me. We're all very different, like vastly different personalities and look and just style and everything. But I managed to find a fabric. It's a viscose floral fabric, but it's kind of like, it's just really nice. It's in my fabric video. I'll leave a link to it. And I got a pink, green and a yellow, and I'm making me and one of my sisters a Wilder gown, and then I'm making my other sister a square neck top with the same fabric, so I think that'd be really cute. I'm looking forward to making them. Nettie Hayes says, what is your favourite garment to sew? I've already mentioned this, but I love dresses. I tend to wear dresses all the time, in the winter and the summer, and I wear them with tights or bare-legged, and I just think they're great. I never wear jeans. I have one pair of jeans to my name, and I don't think they fit me anymore. So I've got a few questions left. The next one is from Blossom Sandridge. She said, do you ever dream about sewing crafting ideas? I don't know if I have necessarily dreams, like sleeping dreams, but I definitely daydream about things. So if I've looked at a website or Pinterest or something, I instantly am like, oh my goodness, how nice would that look in those colours? And then I start thinking about corresponding fabric patterns, sewing patterns that would like go perfectly with it. So I daydream about makes a lot, and then if I really can't get it out of my head, I'll sketch it. So yeah, definitely daydream about things, and craft ideas. Like, I always have craft ideas for like punch needle projects and then never get around to making them. Blossom Sandwich also said, do you take inspiration from ready to wear or mostly Instagram / your mind? I think it's a combination actually. I definitely take inspiration from ready to wear because things come up in ads and you know, on Pinterest and things like that. And Instagram, yeah, as well, because people I follow are tend to be a lot of style bloggers, and I see things they're wearing, and I don't necessarily look at the brand they're wearing, I just look at how they're styling it, and that really inspires me, especially people like Liv Purvis and Sarah Waste as well. Just looking at my phone because I've got a few of their examples, they're really gorgeous. And celebrities like Zooey Deschanel, Hayley Williams, like they're people that I really like look up to in terms of their style. And then I'm absolutely loving the brand Selkie for her like puff dresses, and I love the colours that Olivia Rubin uses as well. She's a gorgeous designer who does like pastel kind of makes. I love the colour blocking like pastels, and I've definitely taken inspiration from her as well. And then the last question is from Agned, and she says, items that a beginner can sew easier. So I would say if you are a complete novice, like a complete beginner, then a really great thing I remember starting off with when I was practicing was a circle skirt, but it's not for everyone's like taste, I guess. So you could look into things like the Tilly and the Buttons Stevie tunic. That's an amazing pattern for a beginner, and you can make a top or dress version. It's quite good for a multitude of different styles. If you're more into dresses, then also the Tilly and the Buttons Indigo. Their patterns are great for beginners as well because you have a lot of like beginner friendly patterns, and they state if they're beginner or a confident beginner, intermediate, that kind of thing. And Friday Pattern Company's Wilder gown, if you love a dress, that is the perfect beginner dress to make, and it's just such a beautiful style. So yeah, I would recommend those. But if you literally have never been on a sewing machine before, then, you know, don't intimidate yourself. Why don't you start off by making like a square tote bag or a pillowcase? You know, they're the sort of projects that you start off in college making, and you kind of grow and build from those skills. So yeah, so that is everything in the Q&A, and I really hope you enjoyed hearing more about sort of my sewing journey and kind of little hints and tips and things like that, and just a little bit more insight into my style and stuff. Thank you so much for everyone who sent in questions, and yeah, it was just really nice to do a chatty video for a change. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed watching. If you're new to my channel, like I said, make sure to subscribe. It really helps my channel to grow. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!